Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mr. Saunders. I'm going to be your host for this adventure we're going to go on. This is a video of how to build this tote box. So that's fun. This is a handle that we've put together for you. You're welcome. However, it's not much of a handle right now because, well, there's nothing to hold on to. So what you have to do is mark out where we're going to drill 2 holes. We're going to cut through those 2 holes, and that's going to make our handhold. What I've drawn right there is the center line, so you're just going to measure and divide by 2. What we're marking here is the center of 2 holes. And our first stop on our tour of the shop is going to be drilling those 2 holes. This is going to be a pilot hole, and we're going to drill all the way through on both of them. You can talk amongst yourselves here. Second stop is the second drill press, and we're going to drill a 1-inch hole, and that's going to go halfway through right now. The reason you want to go halfway through, if you try and go all the way through, you're going to get tear out on the back, and it's going to look less than ideal. So go halfway through on both of the holes, and then we're going to flip this over, and we're going to drill the rest of the way through, and there'll be 2 beautiful, clean, lovely things. My gosh, look at that. It's amazing. When you do go all the way through, you're going to feel the drill press release its pressure. Don't keep pushing. Bring the drill press up at that point, and there's going to be 2 little discs likely left in the middle. Just pop those out, and that's done. With that sorted, you've got to separate the outer and inner handle, and got to mark out some stuff that you got to cut. For the math people out there, what you want to draw is tangential lines. I heard it once, it sounded good, so I thought I'd say it again. But draw the lines as you just see them there, and that's going to serve to guide you when you cut the next part. Now we're over to the scroll saw, and we have to release the tension before we loosen the blade, and feed it through the piece we want to cut, and then put the tension back on and go to it. Take your time on this machine, don't force it, that won't help you at all. Now that that's cut out, unfortunately that's not your last stop. The scroll saw isn't perfect, and what you're going to find is there's probably a slight hump where the straight part that you just cut meets the hole that you drilled. You can use a file. Mine was literally sitting on the table, so I used it. Or you can use sandpaper and just work that away a little bit to make that as smooth as possible. The next step is going to the router table. That'll be all set up for us. And all you want to do is router the inside of the handle so when you hold it, it's nice and comfortable. With that done, you're back to the outer part, I guess, of the handle. And we're going to go to the bandsaw and cut all that out. Take your time here, again, like always, and cut up to and near the line, but do not cut the actual line. You're going to stand up to that in the next step. And here we are at the next step. I began using a file, but then, yeah, that noise happened, so I moved very quickly to sandpaper. It was a boring part to watch, so I just sped it up. Just sand it smooth till you're satisfied with it. Nobody will actually touch this part, however, it's still important to get it smooth. And now you're just going to fit this handle, and it's going to be magic. And now now, the carcass, which is like the outside of the box. We're going to take our time on this next little bit. If you see the grain there, it goes nicely around that corner, as I'm showing you here. So it's going to be really important that we keep everything sorted. So keep an eye on that to make sure the grain matches up. Here's your piece. Just mark it in the middle right now. You're going to cut all the pieces in order, but to make it more manageable, split it in half. I'm just indicating which piece is which. I think I put the end on the right and the side on the left. So now we're back to the drawing board. You can see where that joint's going to be. And now I'm indicating where the other pieces are and what they're going to be. The next stop is going to be the table saw using a sled on a 45-degree angle. So I'm just lifting this up here to mark the angle so I don't get confused when I get to the saw. Job number 1 at the saw is to create that angle where we marked it earlier. You're just going to trim one end of each of the pieces. And this is my attempt to show you what I'm doing, however I'm out of frame. They don't supply me with a camera person. And when it's all together, the grain should continue around the corner. Gosh, that looks nice. So we're going to keep working at that. My gosh, I started cutting these pieces and they're a little bit little. So I put a hole down in there so no one's hands will get cut off. That seems nice. There's 2 stops on this sled. One is for the ends or the small pieces and the other is for the side or the front and back or, well, just the longer piece. So once you cut one piece, you're going to need to trim the end of the offcut to be a proper angle that you need again. It will make more sense when you're doing it, but hopefully you can follow along. As you work away at this, you may want to just check in here and there to make sure all your angles are working out and that they all line up, all the grain lines up. And soon enough, you should have 4 pieces. And this is going to be your first glance at how lovely it's going to look. So you can see all the pieces going together, all the grain matching up, except, oopsie, I wasn't good at puzzles as a kid, I guess. Before we can actually do much else with this, we have to cut the grooves for the dividers. And we do that on the dado saw. And would you believe it, there's a sled set up. And this is where I started thinking about my hands again. So I got another hold down. So safe, I can't even stand it. Remember to keep your hands clear as the blade exits the back of the saw, because that's the last thing you need. And with those grooves cut, you can put the puzzle back together, and we can actually start taping it. I cannot stress enough. The very first thing you need to do with this tape is fold the end over so you can easily find the end and take it off. All too many times people spend, gosh, hours looking for the end of the tape when they need to remove it. The way to do this is to place the tape on half of the joint and smooth it on one side, align the joint properly, and then pull the tape nice and tight and smooth it out. And with all the pieces taped together, flip it over, and you're ready to see how it's going to look. That's a wrap because tape and next up are the dividers, and I just happen to have them waiting here. So trace out 4 of them, and the theme of this next portion is going to be times 4. So we're going to have to bandsaw it times 4, sand it times 4, and router it times 4. However, watching the same thing over and over and over again gets a little boring, so I'll probably only show you one. So here we're just creating some relief cuts, and we'll talk about that. And cut it on the bandsaw. Please keep your hands out from under the guard. You're going to do that times 4. And then we're to sanding. And you're going to smooth it out, and at the very end, you're going to want to roll that top edge so it's not sharp, just like that. And you're going to do that times 4. And then we come to the router, and we're going to do this times 4. On one side, followed by the other. That makes it nice. Back at our carcass, we're going to just dry fit this, no glue. Just put it together, see what it looks like. And there it is. They're all divided. All we need now is the piece that we were working on earlier, your handle. The very first step, when we glued it together, there's some rough edges, so you're just going to need to trim all that nice and flush. Just trim it as slightly as possible. There's not a lot of extra length in those. Once you have one end trimmed, bring it back to your box, mark it, and just trim it a little bit again, and you want to sneak up on the cut. And in fact, it's probably easier if you bring your project back with you, and as you cut it, you can test fit it. And this one, it's lovely. And then we'll see how the bottom fits. So that's the part where you gotta take the tape off, and without the ends taped, that would not be fun. So just untape one joint, get rid of the tape, and now you're gonna put glue everywhere. Put just a little bit of glue in the miters, not too much, because you don't want it to squeeze out to the inside. And glue all your dividers, and make a box. Don't worry, we'll cover installing the handle and final sanding in class.